36 years ago, I moved from my first parish as a new young priest to my second parish, St. Mark's in Venice. And I moved in with a priest from El Salvador and of course, the Irish pastor. And the priest from El Salvador was about 7 years older than I was. And he had just an incredible experience in his own country. He was asked by his bishop to leave and come to Los Angeles because 2 times he came this close to being killed because of his work with the poor and standing for justice for the poor in his war-torn country. But one of the things that struck me is he said it many times. He said, people in my country who were born 20 years ago have never lived one day of their life in their country without knowing war. Not one day without knowing war. And I thought to myself, wow, I can't even imagine that experience. We live such a sheltered and safe life here, for the most part in the United States, pampered. Imagine living every day with war. But then I think, not just there, look at the Middle East for how many years, in Northern Africa, even parts of Central Africa, war all the time. Unbelievable conditions. People are forced out of their land, forced to go to another country. They have no rights, they have nothing. They live in camps sometimes for years because nobody will let them in, but they're being forced out. They live on the border, and they die there, many of them. What would it be like to live like that every day? Well, the first reading today speaks about a people, the Jewish people, who had been forced from their land and moved to the north and separated from the south and living under slavery conditions and longing to go back to their land and being promised again and again through the years by the prophets that Israel would be restored. And we hear God's care for the people as different things happen along the way to reunite them with their people in the south and eventually put their people back together. But they still long for this messianic time when someone would come, this Messiah, who would restore everything, but not just bring them peace and bring them together, would even take the paralyzed and the blind and the deaf and the mute and heal them. So then, in that context, we hear this gospel story. Now, here's a man who, well, it doesn't say he was born blind. I'm only aware of one gospel in John where the man was born blind. We always hear it during Lent. But this man had been blind maybe since he was 1. Maybe most of his life, maybe just for a month, who knows? But as a result of his blindness, he is now a beggar, sat by the side of the road asking for alms in order to be able just to eat. And here he is, sitting there, and he hears, as Jesus and his little entourage is passing through the town, he hears the name of Jesus. And he starts shouting out, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." And the apostles, shh, shut up, be quiet. That doesn't stop him. He starts shouting louder, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." And then Jesus says, "Call him." And now the people who were telling him, "Shut up, shh," say, "Take courage now. Jesus wants you. Go to him." How did he go to him? What did it say in the gospel? You can't answer. You were here last night, okay? Oh, yes. What did it say? Yes, but before he said anything to him, there he is sitting by the side of the road, and then it says he's crying out, and Jesus said, "Call him," and they said, "Go on, take courage. Jesus is calling you." What did it say? How did he get from sitting there to get over in front of Jesus? What did it say he did? Anybody? Well, he's sitting bundled up there in his cloak. He threw off his cloak. It says he sprang up. He didn't just get up, he jumped up. And he rushes over there, probably runs over there to Jesus. Now, Jesus says, "What do you want me to do for you?" Pause. Let's go back next week. Because we have another incident we remember last week where 2 of the apostles, they're walking along with Jesus, all 12 of them, and 2 of the apostles' brothers come up to Jesus and they say, Jesus, we want you to do something for us. And he says, what do you want me to do for you? Okay, so we have two contrasting stories. Two people who could see and who could walk and were perfectly healthy. Jesus, we want you to do something for us. And the blind man. Okay, so Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? To the two. What do you want me to do for you? To the blind man. Well, the blind man, it's obvious. We know what his answer is going to be. I want to see. But what did these two ask? Now, these two, we got to appreciate, they're apostles. They've been walking with Jesus for days, weeks, months, a couple years perhaps. Jesus sent them out in mission, 2 by 2, to go out and spread the news, to cast out demons, to heal. They got a share in his ministry. I mean, they're part of the group, the inner club. They listened to Jesus. How many times after Jesus talked to the crowds would he gather in a house just with his 12 and teach them further and share his intimate love and the love of God for them? And what did these two say when Jesus says, what do you want for me to give you? And they said, nothing much, just when you get into your kingdom, can the two of us sit, one at your left and one at your right? Wow. Now these are two that had shared in the ministry of Jesus Christ, seen everything. You would think they would have asked for wisdom, for courage, for understanding. Jesus, allow us to share even more in your ministry. We want to serve like you serve. Help us to know God's love more powerfully. Nope. We want to look important, sitting at your left and right. That's what we want. Now Jesus, to his great credit always, and I'm thinking, must have been very disappointing after you've spent all this time with these people you're training, and all they want some glory. So it prompted him to give the teaching, and we've heard this about 3 out of 5 Sundays. He said, look it, in this kingdom that I'm proclaiming, if you want to be first, you have to be last. If you want to be first, you must serve everyone. In fact, he said last week, you must be a slave to everybody. That's how you become first in this kingdom. You put yourself in the service of everybody. We wanted to look important. That's how you become important in this kingdom. In contrast to that, Jesus says to the man, what do you want for me to do to you? I want to see. Now, the backstory on him, I believe, as well as most people who came to Jesus looking for healing, is they didn't come in a vacuum. They came with a belief already. They weren't walking along with Jesus in the entourage, going town to town and sharing and listening to his preaching and teaching. He was sitting on the side of the road. He probably had only heard about Jesus, this great healer who's going through all the towns, and blind are seeing. And the blind man says, excuse me? Repeat that? Blind are seeing when he touches them. Whoa! And so his hope and his faith is enlivened. And he says he's sitting on the side of the road begging, and this little entourage with Jesus walks through, and he hears the word, the name Jesus. Son of David, have pity on me. He goes berserko. They cannot shut him up. They can't. They tell him, be quiet. He shouts louder. This man already had faith. This man already could see. Not with these eyes, but with deeper eyes. And so Jesus, he knew what he wanted. But Jesus always was about confirming the faith of people. So he said, what do you want for me to do to you? I want to see. And his answer is, your faith has saved you. Your faith has brought this about. He doesn't relate to his power or God's. He just says, it's your faith that has saved you. And then he says this, and this is just a nice little touch at the end. He says, go on your way. And where did the man go? Hello? He followed Jesus. He went on Jesus' way. Go on your way. And the gospel just says, and he followed Jesus. He went on the way of Jesus. Now, that's the little story. You know, I love saying the little and big story. The little story is on the page. We just heard it, all those details. But the big story is, how does this connect to our lives? How does this gospel integrate into our lives? I think everybody here is capable of seeing. My vision's getting worse by the day. I tell you, the reading stuff, oh man. But anyway, that's another story. I've got eyes and I can see, and I'm blessed, and I thank God every day for it. But I can see. I've been blessed as a priest for 39 years to do the ministry of Jesus Christ. And we all do it. We're all baptized. But of course, I'm ordained into the service. So I get like, everybody here gets a sharing in the ministry of Jesus Christ. I get an avalanche poured on me. Do more. Participate more. And I get the blessing of sharing in the ministry of Jesus Christ. It's incredible. Quite frankly, I don't even know why there isn't a line of 30 young people coming up to me after Mass. Father Perry, how do I become a priest? How do I share in the ministry? How do I become a sister and work at proclaiming the kingdom of God? My whole life pour into that because it is so fulfilling. I don't know what you see or don't see, but I can tell you it's amazing. If I had it to do over again, go back 39 years, I'd do it again. But what about us? We have sight. All of us walked in here today. We are all here. What do we want of Jesus? He comes to us. I mean, as He approaches, as He passes through our life this day and in this hour of prayerfulness, this hour of His Word and of Eucharist and being with our brothers and sisters in faith, He passes through and quite clearly, surely He says to us, what do you want for me to do for you? Because I'll tell you this, He can do a lot more for you and me than we can do for Him. I'm pretty sure of that. Whatever I do for Jesus is nothing compared to that cross and His love and a whole way of seeing life and understanding the power of grace and all knowing His blessings, etc., etc., etc. So He says to me, what do you want for me to do for you? And I got to ask you, what's our answer? What do we want? Now maybe we're on the side of the two apostles. Jesus, when we get into your kingdom, we'd like to sit at your right and left. Give us a place of honor and glory. We want people to be impressed with us. But this blind man, who already believed in the power of Jesus, believed he could put his physical life back in order. Do we believe that strongly about all the things in our life? One of the things I do encounter about ministry is dealing with a lot of sick, a lot of people who are dying, a lot of people who are in agonizing pain for much of their life. And I see all kinds of responses. I just buried someone yesterday, and it was a most amazing experience a couple weeks ago. On Thursday I was called. They asked me to go in. I said, can I go a little later today? They said, even come tomorrow because then she's going on a morphine drip tomorrow. And so this was the last stage. She knew she was dying, and that was it. She was going to go on a morphine drip and greet death, but she wanted the priest to come and hear a confession and give all the sacraments. I said, okay, for sure, I'll be there. I'm almost ready to leave the rectory, and in comes another family. Please come to the hospital, a different hospital, because our father had a heart attack, stroke last night. He's unconscious. I don't think he's going to make it. My mother needs some support from the priest. I said, of course, I'll go there. So I go way over to Adventist Hospital first. And I had this rare experience, because usually, there's a few people in the room. ICU, especially there, they only want 2 or 3. But, especially with big Latino families, maybe there's 8 or 9. But I go into this floor, not the ICU, for the woman who's going to go on the morphine drip just after I leave. And I meet a grandson and a daughter and a neighbor and 2 little girls, great-granddaughters, in the hallway. In different moments they came into there. And I was waiting for about 20 minutes until she was ready and I could go in. So when I went in, I went to greet her, and she wanted to go to confession first, so I told them. I closed the door. I said, I'll bring you back in for the anointing and communion. So I heard her confession. It was extraordinary, just extraordinary. Because this was like the man blind What do you want? She said, I want to be completely right. I want to put my life in order. I want to open my heart completely to God's grace and love. I want to ask for forgiveness. I want healing. And she wasn't talking about physical healing. So I heard her confession. Then I opened the door, so you can come in. 20 people came in. Huge family, 20 people. And they've been going through this for weeks now. Faith-filled family. They were just calm and prayerful. I had about 8 hosts with me. I was breaking them all because I didn't have enough. Everybody went to communion. It was just this incredible experience. I leave that hospital. I rush over to the other one because I'm late because I was waiting for a long time to get into her room. And I go into ICU. 20 people in there. This is rare because they don't usually let that many in. And the man was completely unconscious. And I shared all the sacraments there. And give communion, of course. And of course, it was a different mood there because they were in shock from the heart attack stroke the night before. And there was a lot of sobbing and a lot of pain, but a lot of faith. That I explained to them what this sacrament does. This is healing. Who knows what he can hear? And I know there's nurses here, nobody knows what that person can hear. They may not be able to respond, but who knows? Sabe. So I gave the sacraments, and they were prayerful and touched and responsive. But when I went into those rooms, I know what they wanted. I didn't even have to ask. In fact, before I could ask, they came to me. Father, come. We want something. We need something. So when I hear this gospel, the big story is that I think Jesus is always wanting to grace us. He always wants to give us something. Do we even ask? Do we even know? Do we even want? Do we see him as the prime giver, not ourselves? In fact, rather than worrying about how much we're giving to Jesus, what about if we were just worrying about, or not worrying, that's the wrong word, but just saying, Lord, I want to receive from you everything I can. And my image of Jesus giving to us is that we take this vat to him. It's this round, it's this tall, and he fills it up, and we say, oh, Jesus, please fill it to the brim. I want every drop of your grace and love. He fills it to the brim. And then it starts overflowing. Okay, Jesus is full. It's overflowing. Jesus is full. You can stop. Jesus, it's going all over the place. I think he gives more than we could ever want, more than we could ever need. I think this is the image of Jesus that I know. He is completely full of love, completely full of grace. So today, we're asked, who will we connect with? Last week, it was 2 people who wanted a shot at some glory. This Sunday, it's a blind man who with great faith comes to Jesus and says, I want to see. And not to our surprise, but the reality is Jesus turned, gave him sight, and recognized how great his faith was.